virtual instruments do not give you the same results as organic ones. When we soloed that sub bass and we soloed that electric bass, there's an enormous difference dynamically. This sub bass has a very slight attack on each one of those downbeats, but ultimately it's just a consistent volume the whole time. Let's go to our live bass. I mean, it's uneven in frequencies. It's, you know, we did quite a lot of fun things to it, but ultimately it needs maybe a little bit of an MV2 on it. This is a favorite plugin of mine because it controls the low level stuff and the high level stuff and pulls it together so there's a more consistent volume. Here we are, we've got the sub, which is just consistent. I didn't do any additional compression or EQ. It's a virtual instrument. It just delivers the same way every time. Even a virtual piano is going to be recorded with a microphone in exactly the right place, and every hit is going to be absolutely perfectly performed. You think of things like acoustic guitars or stand-up basses. Performers move. So what they're playing now, it'd be like boom, they can hit it too hard, too soft, move slightly. Every time they're moving an inch or two, you know, a few centimeters here and there, the microphone picks up a completely different frequency response. Maybe not dramatically different, but a lot more different than a sub that's coming from a synth. So we have lots of different things to think of. And the MV2 is a very perfect plugin for me to get rid of a lot of those issues. So I'm going to take the output down. I'm going to bring up the low level. So now we have the frequency analyzer up, and we're going to take the low level information and boost it. On that second note, that D, it disappears. The low end gets inconsistent. Have a listen again. So let's take the low level information here and bring it up. Then take the high, bring the output down. So there's a little bit missing in that kind of 110 area. So why don't we go to our old favorite, the R bass, bring it up to about 100. Hasn't 100% alleviated every issue, but it's got infinitely better. Definitely far more consistent, nowhere near as consistent as the sub bass, as the programmed virtual bass. It's always going to be a completely different thing. So when you're watching, you know, a lot of those tutorials, and I watched many of them before preparing this, I realized that talking about virtual instruments, virtual drums, all of that stuff is one thing and very, very important. And you can get in there and get a little mathematical about how you separate all of your low end apart. But when it comes to either using entirely organic instruments or using organic instruments with program instruments, you have to play a bit more of a tougher game. You have to get in there and even some of that stuff out. If you want that bottom end to be really consistent in your mix, that's what we do.